Do you have an E46 or are you thinking about buying one to go drifting? In this video, I'm gonna break down all the things that you need to do to an E46 to make it bulletproof. Now, obviously this car behind me is not the car in question. This is our serious comp car, the money maker or the money spender, depending on whether or not you watched our last YouTube videos. If you haven't, we broke down a video on this car and what it costs to operate it and what it costs to build it. In this video, we're gonna talk about the MVP, which is our 3-liter, relatively stock E46 that we've taken ice drifting. We've taken it to a local street class championship and won that championship in it. And we take it to all of our local events. It's an absolute workhorse. And we're gonna break down in this video how to make it reliable to hopefully save you guys some time and money and energy. So let's get into it. I started out drifting a stock E46 so that at some point was my daily driver. The reason we got the car that we currently have is because when we were building the comp car, when you have a car at this level, it's obviously not a car you can take to every event and drive. It costs a lot to operate. So the drifting never-ending black hole, you need another chassis for seat time. So we picked up a 2.5 liter E46 that was automatic for $1,000. Me and my buddy both got one. It was a package deal, $2,000. So we manual swapped it. We did all the necessary things to make it bulletproof and reliable. Since we did those things, it's been amazing. It's just oil changes, bolt checks, and go. Let's talk about the things we had to deal with and what we had to do and what you need to look out for when you're buying an E46. What I'm about to say is mainly for the 3-liter. So if you have a 2.5, don't worry about this too much, but let's talk about if you have a 3-liter E46. Here's some things that you really need to pay attention to. If you have a 3-liter, you need to do something to address the oil pump issue. I'm not gonna go into a wormhole here, but here's the basic facts on it. They have an issue with the oil pump nut backing off at high RPM. Supposedly it's a harmonic issue at higher RPM. The harmonics of the engine change and the vibration causes the nut to back off. Here's the caveat. The nut, either whether you weld it or do the safety wire chain, is not enough. The chain on the oil pump is actually at high RPM getting what's called chain slap. If this is a sprocket, the chain is basically pulling on it. Whether or not you have that nut on there with safety wire or welded, the chain will actually apply tension and snap the shaft itself. The nut will come off with it, does not matter. So highly recommend if you have a 3-liter, you do the S54 chain tensioner. And you do the nut fix, whether it's a weld or a safety wire. If you want to be even more baller than that, do what I did. You do the S54 chain tensioner and you do the Achilles Motorsport oil pump shaft upgrade. If you want to be even more baller, you can get a full billet oil pump. They're very expensive, but that will eliminate the issue together. I hear a misconception about this all the time. People say, oh, I checked the subframe, it's not cracked. Sometimes they're just saying that as a figure of speech, but it's actually not the subframe itself that's the issue. Where the subframe mounts to the chassis itself, that's where you're looking for the cracks. I'm gonna quickly show you guys where that is, because whether you're looking at a car or you already have one, it's important that you address this. No matter what, if you're drifting an E46, you need to do the subframe reinforcement. So this is the subframe, this is obviously a custom one. This is irrelevant. Right here, the chassis itself, that's where you're looking for cracks. There's 4 points with all the bolts, where the subframe bolts to the chassis. You wanna get under your car and you want to clean off any of the road salt, dust, whatever it may be, because a lot of times the way it starts is with little hairline cracks. And no matter what, you need to be doing this subframe reinforcement. They sell the plates on multiple websites. There's tons of how-to videos on how to do it. Make sure you do that before you take your E46 drifting. It's essential. What's up, Tuna? So we're assuming that you've already done your maintenance to your E46 and basic stuff, but one thing I think it'd be important to talk about if you have one is the cooling system, which is another thing everybody knows is kind of an Achilles heel for a stock E46. Tuna has lots to say about this. He's been through this before, and I'm hitting the good spot right now, I can tell. He's getting vocal. If you have your E46, you don't necessarily have to upgrade the cooling system to like an aluminum expansion tank, but I would at least recommend first inspecting your rad and all that, and at the very least, go on Rock Auto or somewhere else and just get a new expansion tank. Honestly, I've had good luck with like the factory plastic ones. I have had them explode before. It's only been when they've been old. The thermal expansion and contraction just splits them down the seam on the side. So honestly, just go get a new one. You should be good. Keep an eye on it and have a spare. Rad hoses and stuff too. If you have your OEM ones on there that are old, I would just recommend replacing those with new OEM style ones. You don't need to ball out. But of course, there's aftermarket upgrade options that you can do if you choose to. Let's talk about what you should do to get some free power before you add power. Bushings. Chances are, if you just bought an E46, these cars are 20 plus years old now. If it still has factory bushings, they're probably rotten. You're getting play in your drivetrain. It's free horsepower that you're losing. So let's maximize what you already have in your car. So I would highly recommend You can get a full bushing kit from a lot of companies now, front to back. So you can do your subframe bushings, your transmission mounts, your engine mounts, trailing arm bushings, get all that stuff done. Do that first. You don't need to add power, maximize what you already have. Let's talk about the next thing. Coilovers, bucket seat, welded diff. This is like the trio. Coilovers, you just wanna make sure your car is not flopping around like a boat. You need to feel that road response. It's gonna stiffen up the chassis, which is gonna put more energy into the tires. You'll be able to learn how to drift better. Welded diff, because obviously we gotta spin both wheels. Right, Webster? Listen, he knows. And a bucket seat, because while you're doing all this, if you're in a factory seat that's 20 plus years old, you're gonna be sliding around like crazy, and you can't focus on your inputs as a driver if you're sliding around the car. So coilovers, welded diff, bucket seat, bushings, that's what you're gonna start with. Let's talk about some power adders. I hate to break it to you, but if you're trying to add power to your E46 on a budget, you don't have many options. So really all you can do is headers, because the cats are already in the headers in these cars, and that does rob a lot of flow, which is obviously robbing you of horsepower. So you wanna do some catless headers. You can get tons of them on eBay, and they're actually pretty good for E46s, which is surprising. And then you would basically just want to do some sort of an exhaust. Now, E46s sound absolutely terrible when they're fully straight piped. What I've always done is maintain the factory exhaust with catless headers, and then I've just done a muffler delete. So you still have your stuff in the middle. It kind of quiets down the rasp, but it also has some throatiness to it when you actually need it. Please don't straight pipe your E46, it sounds terrible. But really guys, stage one, if you will, if you were to modify these cars, is literally just catless headers, muffler delete, cold air intake, and you can get a factory ECU tune and flash. That's all you want to do. Even that will probably only get you like 20 to 30 wheel, but that would be like what I would recommend if you really want to get a little bit extra jam out of your car. Let's talk about handbrakes and angle kits. Now I'm up here. If you have an E46, you've probably already found out that the factory e-brake is terrible. There's a few things you can do. You can go and replace the shoes and whatnot. You can add an extender onto the existing e-brake to get more leverage. If that works for you and you want to try that, by all means, go for it. I recommend you learn to drift without a handbrake at first. That way you learn how to control momentum and the car without having to rely on the handbrake. But if you've done all the things we just talked about, I would say the next thing you need to talk about is getting a handbrake, hydro probably, and an angle kit. Now, hydro, I recommend you start with an inline. It's easier, it's cheaper. But if you have the money and you want to do it, by all means go dual caliper. Handbrake would definitely be the next thing you want to do. And then an angle kit. Find yourself a good angle kit. I once again recommend learning without an angle kit, because you have a smaller window and threshold, which means you as a driver need to be more precise when you're learning. If you are going to get an angle kit, I run FDF stuff on all my cars. They're fantastic. The E46 kit feels amazing. They have install videos on the kit, and they provide all the suspension specs. So you have a good baseline, there's no guesswork, and you can go ahead and just start with the ideal specs for your E46. We'll drop a link to FDF below. That would be the final stage, in my opinion, of having a seat time E46. Some bonus items that you might want to consider if you're drifting your E46, in no particular order of importance. Braided brake lines are a great option. These are 20-year-old cars. Factory brake lines can start to be a problem, get weak, etc., under heat. Weight reduction. These cars are heavy from the factory because they have a lot of sound deadening and other stuff in them. So you can actually get a couple 100 pounds out of these cars just by putting some sweat equity into removing weight. Factory power steering pumps are often plastic in these. The pulley itself is plastic. That can be a failure point. They make metal upgraded options, so I would suggest that you do that. Assuming that you've considered all the things that we've done here, you should have a bulletproof E46 to go drifting with. And it can all be done for a pretty reasonable price. These cars are great. The trailing arm design allows them to pack a bigger punch and fight in a higher weight class, so to speak. And there really isn't that much needed to make these cars reliable, both on the track and as daily drivers. So to wrap this video up, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and this is something that caused or was part of the reason why we went through 2 3-liter motors previously. If you've done everything, it's really important if you are getting a factory ECU tuned that you do not raise the factory rev limiter, especially on the 3-liter. Once you go past that 6,500 RPM up to 7,000, 7,200, that's really when that harmonic issue really starts to show its teeth. Plus, the cars are really not making that much power in factory form after a certain point anyway, so do make sure you keep the factory rev limiter when you tune these cars. That is super important with E46s. If you guys enjoyed this video, let us know. We're gonna put a list right here of all the things I just covered. So we'll categorize that so you guys can screenshot it and remember it. If you have any questions, DM, comment below, and appreciate you guys for watching. Peace.